So I'm gonna try to introduce you, and usually I am always like I want to kind of touch base 5 minutes, and then before I start recording, just so that we land back into the body. But what just happened 10 minutes ago, like literally, we kind of opened up a box. It's not a
We
Pandora
did.
box. It's a box,
It's a
and
box.
it's a box full of creativity and ideas and undiscovered adventurous parts that are mystical and magical. And I'm already getting hot. Like I can feel the energy kind of like just dropping into the field and intention. But I want to just take a moment, kind of want to introduce you to my best ability without reading anything about it. And this is what I feel. I've known you for 3 years already, and we met in the astrology workshop in a different places, Seattle and Barcelona. And when I met you, you have this steady energy of presence that enters into the room. And as you enter, you're almost requiring respect. And when I say this, it is not aggressive and demanding or demeaning to other people. It's actually just because you know your truth. And this was so beautiful to see a month ago in a different, in a recent workshop that we had with Meredith, that there's something so truthful about you that is so concrete in you that nothing comes to break it. And I was surprised, and I was also really in awe of it. And this quality that comes into the people just comes in almost like when they're ready to dive inside to discover who they are, and all these parts of them that are coming up alive slowly and patiently, and are starting to ask the questions, and are kind of like pushing them to start reading about this. And they're like these voices or words or signs that come in. So there's so much to say about you that I think one sentence will not be enough to explain. So I'm just gonna call you an artist from the heart, a soul that came to embody many different archetypes,
Certainly.
uh, and right, a
Oh yeah.
representation, a representation of such softness and love that comes out of you, though you are daring to touch the places that many are scared for. And you go back in the past and down into the underworld to come out with the art and sound that it's almost tuned into that frequency for us almost here in the present to just feel. Your art speaks different language. Like you go back to ancient Greek's time, before and after Christ, this era of mysticism that comes in that we only know based on the oral mythology. And when I started reading about it, I was like, wow, I might as well just ask questions because I don't know where to start and when to end. And I don't know what is the right way. But what I do know is it's showing up through you on your physical, on your visual, on your emotional, on your auditory. Everything that's coming out of you is actually based on the research that you did of who you are and where you come from. So I don't know what else to say. I could just talk about
Oh my
it like
gosh.
for two
Are
days.
you so kind to all of your guests? My goodness. I feel like you just wrote my whole branding story. Thank you.
Seriously?
Truly, like that was so kind though. Thank you
Seriously.
very, very much. I'm honored to be here with you talking. Oh my gosh, I feel like very strongly about the same impression I had of you when I first saw you in our workshops because you struck me just as someone who is so connected on like every dimensional level.
Mhm.
And I was like desperate to get a chance to talk to you. And I think our first like real conversation was at the Can, which
Yeah.
I love.
Can't get show.
Like what a moment, like sitting front row at this fabulous Neptunian like Venetian show.
Totally.
Oh my gosh, what a fun time. So yeah,
Totally.
I'm really like I was just honored that you asked for me to come here and I'm so excited to talk about anything that you want to ask me because yeah, this wild life full of art and devotion and well, now I feel like I'm stumbling on my words, but I'm really chuffed by everything you said. So thank you, because that was
Yeah.
they're very gracious, very generous. So
Yeah. And honestly, I don't even think about it. These things come out, and I think they come out, we were touching base, because they're almost like mutually exchanged and mutually felt. So when we cross paths in Can, we just sat next to each other in front of the show full of pink and like glitters, and everything was just so loud and so
yeah.
Las Vegas back in the day. But the moment we started talking, we connected first because we knew we were astrologically almost similar. We have some
Yes,
similarities.
we do. Yes.
And well, let me ask you this. Is it true that Pisces always feel each other and we just kind of like slowly just sit next to each other and we're automatically comfortable with one another? True or false? You're astrologer.
I have two answers to that. The first being that the rising sign will always magnetize to a similar rising sign or a similar sign. So me being Pisces rising, my Pisces magnets are out and proud. And I believe you're Gemini rising, or you
Yes.
right? Yeah. And I have a ton of Gemini in my chart. So it was like a
Oh,
mutual linkage there. It was a mutual golden linkage of relationship, which is great. And the second thing I'll say is anybody with Pisces, it's not so much merging with just Pisces. Like Pisces just merges with everything. So it just
yeah.
the boundaries are gone and it can just like, oh, I see this, I feel this, I've witnessed this, and I am now part of this. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It is so easy for us to do that. I mean, do you know, it's almost like such a new concept to even speak about that you're kind of like part of everything and nothing, and you can blend in and be like, you kind of like chameleon, you can change the forms and colors and energies as you come and go, and it's all good.
Yeah. Hopefully, right? We don't want to merge with
Well,
anything too crazy,
yeah,
which can happen. That's why
that's
I tell
true.
my Pisces, protect yourselves. Like,
That is
but
true.
I mean, even the most painful experiences, right? They hold wisdom. And so,
Mm,
I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, even the really hard stuff. And yeah,
mm,
when I look at the world through that lens, I tend to open to whatever lesson, whatever opportunity lies in whatever experience, and it makes me incredibly grateful, frankly, to be alive. So,
mm.
yeah.
And when did you learn that exact thing?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say so through my years being an astrologer, I've only been practicing for about, I guess, 4 years now, technically. But I started training with our mutual friend Meredith
Hmm.
back in 2019. And before that, I had done a lot of astrology, just sort of like pop astrology. So I think it was probably in those times right before I met Meredith that I was really starting to understand like Pisces energy is just a little different. Like there's just
Yeah.
no ability to like really set the firm in the ocean because the ocean's going to erode away all the things. And what a beautiful and magnificent and terrifying place the ocean can be, right? It's all of the human experience all wrapped into one. And I think the thing that cemented it that I will say, because I love this quote that Meredith gave me, was the first thing she told me. She's like, "Oh, you're Pisces Gemini, which I know you're going to get this. You're trying to organize that whole universe into a sock drawer."
Yeah.
And it's so hard because like we're trying to categorize all of the infinite and it's frankly just not possible. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting, I mean, that's why I love the square relationship because it
Mm,
provides that tension there between those two, which are very
mm,
similar signs. I could go on
mm.
about astrology, as you know, but
Wow. Well, I think maybe we should because our last connection was a really fast exchange of us talking astrology,
yeah,
almost advanced astrology and figuring things out. So maybe we can give it a rally just for a second
I'd
because
love
I'm
it. Let's
curious
do
about
it.
what you just said.
Yeah.
So when you speak of a Piscean energy, when you speak of a Piscean energy and you speak of magnificence of space that it's almost there's no limit, it's limitless, and a lot of us Pisces can get lost, which is why we're much prone to addiction and much prone on not being able to handle that much volume of water or that much volume of vastness and space and possibilities and everything and nothing. And like, it's almost like it twists your mind so much that mind
Mhm.
no longer exists. You feel everything so big that you don't know how to behave in the world life, in the earth, in the body. So what Mare said, it's like coming back and putting it in the bottle. It's like when you want to be a wave and you're part of the ocean, you're still a wave, but
Mhm.
you're also an ocean and you feel everything. How do you translate this into artistic form? How do you use how well, let me backtrack actually. How did you realize there is so much potential in the ocean, speaking of Pisces, that you can not connect every single star in the cosmos of it, but yet you have to be very specific on which star are you choosing when it comes to creation, art, expression, and how did you connect and narrow down the vastness to this is Canawyn?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I'm there yet, to be completely honest. I don't know if I
Perfect.
figured that out. You're giving me a lot of credit here. I appreciate that very much. I think well, you know what I'll tell you is real world deadlines, not to mention deadlines, just like real world expectations have a way of concretizing the infinite. So I'll be real. My first album I created because I had a team of people who needed music for a ritual. And most of my music like comes from it's in service. And actually that's a great word for Pisces is in service because Pisces does want to serve in this deep emotional way by merging with people in their point of joy or pain or wherever they're at and to guide and help them and be a companion to them in those spaces because they're able to hold space, infinite space for any emotion, right? When they're in their healthiest, right? And so I think having to tame my creative beast came successfully from having other people, other team members that I really loved and cared about who depended on me to deliver a product, which the product was in service to, at the time, it was a community service project, right? We weren't getting paid. And I was up hours and hours writing this album. My first album is inspired by an Egyptian ritual. And so, we created that together and the performance happened and I went, well, I have all this music, I might as well create it into something that can live beyond the one-time event. And so I think that when Pisces can serve a greater purpose, it really finds so much meaning in that. Like it doesn't even have to do it for the money. It doesn't have to do it for the prowess or the social status. It's really about like, what do I care about? And then
Mm,
it kind of funnels in the focus to this is what I'm in service to. And then having real tangible 3D things that like get us grounded in this is actually really an expectation. Like I need to funnel this creativity down into an end result can be
mhm.
very helpful. And that I
Yeah.
think the Gemini part of me really likes that too, because it's like, okay, pull the data down, bring it down, make it. And then I
Yeah.
have also a Jupiter in Virgo, which it's funny because right, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter in the in the traditional sense, excuse me, and my ruler of Pisces is in the opposing sign. So really, that organization funneling down is something that I've had to work at for many years. I've always been like a great big dreamer, but what was the thing that got me to actually create like a tangible, I made this, this is who I am now, is having those expectations of a grade or of a job or a community service project or a commission, right? And I think that's why being a composer has really been helpful because as a composer, you are meant to create a large body of work kind of independently. Not that the musicians aren't important because they are critical to that process, but the whole inception of it comes from one single point.
Mm,
But it is in service to a film, to a theater piece, to a TV
mm,
show. Like that's
mm.
always for me, scoring has always been my place that I'm happiest is being able to serve a greater project. But
Wow.
with all of this imagination that I get to come up with, and then give to other people and collaborate. Yeah, it makes my Pisces Gemini very happy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it also sounds it's so altruistic. It also sounds it's so pure in its own form and creation and it's new, innovative, and also it's very like it enters into the unknown. It makes you start a project without being yes, how much of it you identify with is a question. And how
Mm,
much of it is yours? And how much you want to keep versus how much you want to just gift because you almost transferred from
yeah.
through to. And when it transfers from through to, then next, right? So it's almost like it becomes part of you, but it's also I totally understand when you say it becomes a part of the larger whole
Yeah.
where you participate actively through your creativity because you're able to almost have this perspective of, but it's really not for me. Like, it's really hard to do this if you're not Pisces, how I think. It's like this comes as a compass inside of us when we enter into this world as Pisces. It's like, but no matter what, your gift is your gift is coming through you. That's how I see it. It's like even me being Gemini and being able to put the words and the feelings into the format that are touching the heart is like almost like the gift that passes to the humanity. And I really only just genuinely hope it touches someone else's heart too, how it
Hmm.
touched mine. And it comes in different formats. So, how did you? Thank you for sharing. I think that was really beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, my pleasure.
How did you spoke about the project and your project that you were invited to and that you couldn't do alone? Also Piscean thing, we need a village to
Yes.
put the vast thing into the space. But there is this part that you surrender and you trust it into the unknown. Can you tell me something about it? You trusted this for some unknown reasons and you didn't really know what's going to turn around to be.
Oh man. There's so much story behind like that first album that I mentioned specifically, but there's been many other music projects since that the element of trust, the element of surrender has been so strong. I just heard this thing recently by, I think her name is Sonia Choquette. Forgive me if anybody is listening and knows who that is and knows how to say her name, but she said surrender is not giving up. It is allowing for a greater power to like take control basically, and I
So
love
good.
that, like the idea of it's allowing something, because in a way to me that's very co-collaborative with another source, and recognizing that I don't have all the control and that I don't need to like strangle it to death to actually enjoy the process. So yeah, surrender for me in terms of composition has kind of always been, I mean, maybe it's the Pisces, maybe it's just how I am, but I really feel like I've been well suited for it because I sort of just allow the inspiration to flow through me, and I commit pretty quickly to like, okay, I heard that thing. Now it's going to be tangible and there it is and I'm happy with it. I might tweak it a little later on, but it just kind of comes through. So it feels very channeled, and I didn't really recognize that until much later when I was doing this first. I mean, because I've been composing since I was probably 12 years old.
Hmm.
So yeah, when I when I started, I have a classical music background and did college for
Right.
scoring and everything. And scoring in and of itself, there is a surrender because ultimately, like, you're surrendering to what the director wants or what the main actor wants or what the producers want, typically more often than not, right? And so there's this hierarchy, and the composer has so much creative ability, but you are serving a bigger vision. And that vision is like that higher power that I'm allowing to take control. It doesn't
Mm,
have to be about me and my work. It's refreshing when it can be. That's a really fun experience too. But I actually find that much harder to complete as a process. Whereas, like you
mm,
said, the team depending on me for something that I am in service to, it makes the whole process like actually come to fruition. So to me, surrendering has come in that form, sort of in like a 3D way. And then later it's come from recognizing, okay, I'm actually going to intentionally open to, maybe it's a deity, maybe it's an energy, maybe it's just a divine inspiration that I suddenly have, or I'm like, I have to sit down and write down these lyrics or compose this melody or something. And I just put it down to paper in some fashion. And then I trust that like that came to me for a reason and I'm going to run with it. And that's
mm.
honestly like, this is a double-edged sword because I am somebody who is full of too many ideas. Like I cannot pin them down. The ideas
Same.
are flowing. Like people are like, write down all your ideas. I'm like, I'd be writing for days. Like I have too
Yeah.
many ideas. I actually have to really funnel down and pick the right ones that I'm gonna actually commit to and see through all the way. That for me is the hardest thing. But when I get that idea that just like is like a magnet, it chains me up and like pulls me forward. I'm like, okay, I surrender. You know,
Nice.
that's the one, you know, and I've never been wrong. Like I feel like every time I've trusted that and gone with it, it's turned into something that I'm really quite proud of. Even if it's just for me, it's enough.
Yeah. So, okay, how does that feel, that right one? What
The
is the
right
texture?
idea. Oh.
How do you recognize this inspiration, this momentum that just flows through you?
All right, I'm gonna bring in another planetary archetype. Are you ready? It
Yeah.
feels Uranian. I feel manic about it. I feel like I just want to tell every single person, and my all my like nerves are going. I'm like jittery and jumpy. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like to
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
pure Uranus electricity. So and that's how apparently that's actually a very common Gemini trait too. It's just like when you get excited about something, you get manic. And that's
Oh my
totally how
God.
it feels. And where I'm just like, this is the thing. And I like all I want to do is just like turn off the whole rest of the world and just like create it start to finish. And then poof, there it goes. And that's honestly becoming like more of a problem as my children like need me more and get older. Like I can't just like, sorry, honey, mommy's working. Like, no, it won't work that way. So trying to tame that beast has been an interesting experience as well, as I've experienced that through motherhood. But for me, it's truly like that electricity flowing through the body of just like my eyes are wide open. And I'm just like, I gotta do it
Okay.
right now.
Okay. So, Cawnawyn, you just answered my biggest dilemma lately. Biggest
Okay.
dilemma. And because I'm Gemini rising and I have so many of these creative ideas that are just coming, I feel them as the wave that just shoots through my body. And they
Yeah.
often come through reading. And when I read someone else's transmissional work, and it's been happening lately a lot, I pace myself in the room and I'm
Hmm.
going and I'm like, okay, I need the paper. Where's the paper? And then I take the paper and then I start like just note stick and I just on the wall and on the wall and on the wall. And I become, okay, another one. And then I take a sip of water and I'm just going around the circle and I am manic. I feel manic, but
Hmm.
I feel so good. And it reminds me of this sentence. I read it somewhere with a writer. I actually was listening to an interview of one of the authors or famous writers or poets, and he goes, sometimes we feel when we feel that we have to go and do a physical work or do tasks at the company for 10 hours a day, and then you come back home and you feel exhausted because you're literally physically doing a lot of work to feel fulfilled. But sometimes I sit in a room as a writer and and I think over again and again and again, and then just thinking and contemplating and going deeper and asking and wondering and analyzing and self-discovering and, like questioning. And I write nothing by the end of the day. But my day is so full because I put 100% of my true self expression into self-analysis and what is coming out of me. This discovery process to come to it doesn't even need to be a form. It's just there. It's part of you. And it makes you manic because it
Hmm.
lives through you. And this life force, this inspiration that comes in, it's literally what feels manic in my body too. I am alive. I feel I am part of something much bigger, that it's
Uh-huh.
bigger than me. I don't know how to use my words for it. I need to squeeze my fingers. My toes are always crunched. Like I feel tension in my body, but I also feel I can dance, I can cry, I can scream. And it's such a beautiful process. So thank you, because I thought I'm nuts.
Oh no. Oh my God. I mean, maybe we're both nuts, but like I completely resonate.
Carmen, this is phenomenal because it's an explainable process. And I think it's so inspiring and so enlivening. And I also call it life force. A
Yeah,
life force.
100%. Like I think, too, it's why, if we look back in history, the whole idea of what a muse was so enticing and seductive to great creators, philosophers, writers, right, throughout all of history. And they embodied the muse in this like mythical figure that would come visit you because it was like it would put you in a frenzy of like, I have to create. And what an amazing feeling to like tap into source energy and have the infinite capacity to create whatever it is that
Mm.
comes to mind. Like when we get like a dose of that, it just feels like like Zeus
So
just
totally.
charged us up with electricity, right? So it's like I understand like when you're in that headspace, why people have been trying to talk about, figure it out, reverse engineer it through all of history.
And it's not happening. So for you, do you tap into this energy inside of your body or is it living somewhere outside?
That's I think that my humble answer to that, like I stumble on this because I don't know if it's just the practice that I've had over the years. I feel like I can tap into it very quickly. Like it's almost an altered state of mind. And maybe that altered state of mind is coming from connecting to something outside of me, but it feels very much that my body is embodying the process. So, I, as much as I want to take all the credit, like I'm also like, I don't know all the answers here. So what am I think tapping into for me is a good way of describing it. So it's almost like I'm coming online, right? Like, is it me or is it the greater source of where that's coming from? I'm not sure. But what I will say is like it's taken discipline is a good word for it, but really it's the practice of reaching that space in a
Mm.
continual manner, showing up and pushing the work out of you. And I'm by no means any kind of an expert, but I do know that through the repeated process of engaging with whatever that material is what allows for the whole process to go much faster and be much easier.
Mhm. So, do you want to tap into what that material is? What is this space you're talking about as your inspiration? And how did you discover it? And how did you start ritualizing your connection to it?
I think that space is history for me, honestly,
Mm.
because history, like to me, is it's the study of all things that are like beautiful and also terrible, right? But it's the study of humankind. We see civilizations rise and fall. We see real people's stories of heroicism and fanaticism and true villains and true heroes and just the lush material that is our history as a humankind to me has always been inspiring. And then also how we grapple with our own demise, our own mortality, our own seasons changing around us. Like, and how that's embodied in the form of deity and gods or different like spiritual practices. And so that to me has always been a driving force. And becoming a witch, honestly, and getting in touch with like a pagan history and really getting to learn about all these different cultures and their different pantheons. Um, and how it connects to their folklore, how it connects to, the way their culture was built, the kind of clothes they wore, the kind of things they did. Like it's endless material and it is
Hmm.
so inherently beautifully human. And so I find myself like when I go back in history, yes, there are some horrible things that did happen, but more often than not, I find myself so grateful to be a human, to be alive when I'm alive now, and to be able to like get a window into the past the way that
Mm.
we have like so many resources able to go and actually touch and see and feel and understand as close as we can to those things. And that I feel like tapping into history is what always informs my art. Doesn't matter what it is. And so
100%.
I'm very drawn to that study. And I think that that's like the primary source for me.
Yeah. 100% agree. I have the same thing.
I love it. Look at
I'm
us.
like, yes, 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 yes. And I always get into the past to kind of saturate my desire for beauty in the
Mm,
history of it. And it's interesting because everywhere we turn around nowadays, it kind of sucks. Majority of this, everything offered to us, it's kind of sucky. And I want to go back to the classical way of aesthetics and
mm,
aesthetics as a human qualities and these creative forces that lived in us, with us, through us, and that we that designed and created masterpieces that lasted centuries later.
mm.
So, I agree with you, and I love how you speak about it. So let me ask you this because I have a lot of questions.
Please, I'm here. Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm
And
looking
thank
at
you,
my
by the way.
vinyls. Huh?
Oh, I just said, and thank you, because I appreciate the compliment. Thank
I
you.
think it's so okay. So let me simplify it without complicating it. What First of all, when do you go back to history to study it again?
Oh, I feel like
What
it's
do you feel?
every day. Every day I'm thinking about a time that's so Pisces, right? To just not be presently here, like I'm in the past or in the future or somewhere.
Okay.
I'm constantly, I mean, like literally I'm looking at my computer screen right here and there's a castle. Like I'm like, and that just puts me back in time, right? And it's like in a forest. And there's something about me specifically, and maybe it's the way my soul is or whatever. I feel so deeply connected to past. And it's not just like one period of time. Like I think we mentioned together when we were together that like I feel like I've been here a long time in terms of my soul's evolution. And so I really find so many things to resonate with. Resonance is a good word for it, right? Where it's like
Mm,
I can look at something and not that I'm over identifying, like, oh, I lived in that time period. It's just something about when we get up close with history, especially in a tangible way, whether we're touching or feeling a book or, leafing through pages or whichever, but of course on a computer screen too, because boy, can I do a good spiral into research mode, right? Like, like
yeah.
that's a really good time. Like when I get the space and energy to do that. I used to do that all the time. So whenever I'm given the opportunity to just interact with that, I just, again, it's like a gratitude that I feel where it's like, yeah, I feel
Mm,
like I can merge with that point in history and feel it and see it and smell it and touch it and understand it.
mm,
And it's addictive. And I just want to do it all the friggin' time. And then all of my art is like coming from that. Even my own history, like, in fact, my senior thesis for my college that I went to, an arts college, was about like literally VHS tapes that I had in my childhood that I scored. So it's
mm.
the whole idea of the past is like super prominent in my art. I would
Wow.
say it's probably the most constant thing. So when I say it's like every day, I mean it.
No, I totally believe you because without it, I don't think I would be able to balance myself back into the present. And I think what I pull out of the past is almost like, okay, it used to be good, but we're also this. That was us, and it's such a sweet reminder that that was us too.
Yeah.
And we were able to peak in Renaissance, to peak in
Yes.
classical music, to peak in arts, beautiful and of like of Rembrandt. And I'm gonna touch base why Rembrandt in this case.
I
And
love.
do you know what I mean by it?
Oh yeah, no, but I love that you're I
Yeah,
love that you're bringing this up. Yes.
yeah. And but that was us. And to me, it makes me so proud to be a human now living that has a chance to build on a top of what we already brought to the humanity. And there's, when I get a little bit agitated by the beauty and what our art is nowadays of just like super, like just like clean, artificial AI generated messages and images. And it's just like, it really hurts me. And it's almost so cold that I can't even connect to it. And we desire this connection to the beauty of our creations. And you can find it in the art a lot. So
Mhm.
when I read the philosophy, and I actually started reading Hegel lately because he claimed that art is dead. Ooh, I
Mm.
rebelled and demonstrated against it so much. I was like, art is not dead. And I was just so mad because it meant a lot. It meant a lot. Through art, we see the past of our evolution. And when you go back, even the ancient times of Greece and even ACBC, you're talking, oh my God, the beauty in the body, the freedom of expression, the adoration of all that there is, a possibilities, a potential. And it's like, when did we lose that? So, do you
Mm.
feel, because you're so connected and drawn to the past, Canawyn, that you are brought back now? And that your some part of your purpose is to reinstate what it was and how it was before so you can build on the top of it without us actually forgetting about it for good.
Oh, I mean, yes, I think you just said the exact words I would say. And also, I do think, I was asked in like a group exercise once, and it was, do you think that like times now are worse than they've ever been? Or do you think, no, I think the question was actually, do you think that things are better now than they've ever been? And you were supposed to walk across the room if you agreed. And then if you only like halfway agreed, you like halfway walked across the room. So then you had this beautiful gradient of people's like opinions. And then you
Mhm.
could see the diversification of everybody's mindset. And I proudly walked to the opposite side of the room. Yes, things are better now than ever. When I consider the lives of my children and how safe they are, in this day and age, which granted, there are dangers abound, absolutely, but there will always be. When I consider myself as a woman, as a openly identifying witch, and how safe I am in my environment, like I'm so grateful to be alive. When I have the opportunity to go and look at any piece of history, connect with any corner of the world and the universe, and it's right at my fingertips, like that to me is so exciting. And nobody in the history of mankind has had that level of like connection. So
Mm.
I feel very grateful to be born now when I'm born and also recognize like okay, so I have this giant magnetism to going back in time. So yes, as a storyteller, I think that is inherent to my stories that I'm telling, whether through music or art or writing or astrology even. So much of astrology is a historical study of
Mm.
humankind. And again, it's like why I love it. It's a great study of psychology and history. And you see the cycles of time collapse in on each other, and time becomes a beautiful living, breathing organism. So
Yeah.
time itself, right? Like as a construct is a really fascinating thing to me. And I just feel like my soul was here to play in the whole environment. It's not
Mm.
necessarily like I'm meant to tell the story, but like I want to and I
Mhm.
get to, and that's pretty amazing to anybody who will listen. And even if nobody listens and it's just me playing my music in my room, I feel better afterwards. So like,
Yeah.
everybody wins, I guess.
No, totally. And you're like, but it's your truth. And when
Yeah.
you discover it's your authenticity, it's your compass and it's also your signature. Somehow it's your blueprint. And
Yeah.
somehow you cannot not be eclectic witch. You can't.
I know. I feel like I was the last person to figure it out in a lot of ways. So
How
everyone's
did you
like,
get to that far?
duh. Like,
How
yeah,
did
no.
you realize?
Yeah.
How did you realize and actually landed on, oof, this actually is me?
Yeah, I resisted it pretty hard, but like in a very silly way. Like I realized, I don't know, I resisted it and then I kind of leaned into it because I was like, let's try it on. I'm Leo Venus. Like I want to try things on like fashion. So I was like, you know what? I'm feeling a resistance to this, even though I'm very clearly practicing ritual that I'm writing myself and really clearly resonating with certain deities and doing all of the things that witches do. So what if, right? What if I just called myself a witch and like and what ended up happening was I found a coven that I was really, really drawn to. And so I joined.
Hmm.
This was in early 2020. And then shortly after joining, the whole world shut down and I became
Mm.
their like AV person. And all of a sudden I was like on camera being a witch, like within 3 months of calling myself one. So it was a really strange experience, frankly. And it was very fast. But it got me in touch with like, okay, so well, what does a witch do? And what does a witch say? And getting to like embody that a little bit and then realizing like, okay, this really fits like kind of effortlessly. Like this is kind of I almost in a lot of ways now I look at who I was before that and I'm like, I don't know her. Like who was she? She was so confused. Now it's like
Oh,
this was I stepped into and I had to really be open to it. I had to like put aside my pride, my ego and say like this is what I'm doing. These are what my actions are showing. And not
mm,
to just put on the label because it's a label. In fact, I get really frustrated with like because I'm more than just a witch, right? But a witch in
mhm.
and of itself, the term has so much history to it, so much weight to it. And now I feel proud to say that I am one when you consider the thousands upon thousands of women and men who were charged wrongfully for witchcraft, right? Like, what an
Mhm.
evolution of humankind that, like, I can actually be public about this and not
Yeah,
just be accepted, but in a lot of instances be celebrated. That's an
yeah.
amazing step of an evolution.
Oh, so well said, so well said.
Thank
And
you.
also, yeah, so well said. And also the extension of it or continuation of what was used to be uh untamed scary power for the sake
Mhm.
of whatever someone actually controlling the power that we all have inside of us, especially as women. And I'm not saying just because we're a woman, but at the same time, it's like there's so much nurturing that comes from being a witch.
Mhm.
And yes, I got such a bad rap just because of the history. So there's a lot of movement happening with women actually coming up and saying wrong myth, like taboo, that it's wrong. And it's becoming slowly really accepted and also celebrated, like you said. So why do you think you had so much resentment towards it? And how long did it take you to actually drop into it and surrender to it?
I grew up pretty Methodist, honestly. So for me, it was a lot of religious background, and I knew my family wouldn't love it, which they still
Mm.
don't. Like to be completely honest, I've always been, I don't want to say I'm the black sheep of the family because I have had the incredible love and support of my family, but they have a pretty defined idea of who I am, and that was a hard pivot against what they thought I was. So, and that's happened many times in my life. In fact, I kind of think that's the Uranian spirit where it's like, no,
Ah.
I'm going to rebelliously do my own thing. And actually, when I trust that inner guidance, that inner manic of like, I really want this thing, maybe it doesn't look at all like what society or my family or my friends are expecting of me, but I feel it's right. So that's kind of also become part of that identity. And you asked me how long it took me to sort of sink into it. And honestly, astrology was my gateway drug, like for many,
Nice.
you know. Yeah, I had done some work, as I said earlier, with astrology, and then I met Meredith and really started training seriously with her. And it kind of led from one thing to another, where it was like, well, I'm getting this kind of weird energy in this part of the house. I might go to this store and get like a bundle of sage, which at the time wasn't like such a big deal. And now, I pretty much only buy frankincense because I live off that stuff. It's so good. I love the smell of that. That and dragon's blood. Give me like, oh, an afternoon
Yeah.
of dragon's blood. But anyway, at the time I went and like I was like, I guess I need to get a sage bundle. And I like talked to somebody who later became one of my mentors. And she goes by the Laughing Gypsy. And she's a great psychic and witch, also an astrologer and numerologist. Wonderful, wonderful gal. And so she helped me in that store. And it was like it's kind of what you said earlier about like all the different synchronicities and signals. And one thing led to another where it was just like, well, now I'm at home at 3 in the morning making this ritual, but I'm not a witch yet. And I was like, who am I kidding? So I really feel like in my head, I really resisted hard, but I think in the grand scheme of things, like it took place over about a year that I like went from
Wow.
pulling out my first deck of oracle cards to like, I'm a witch in a coven now. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're saying it's like it's the head that actually resists. but your body
Yes.
is
Oh,
whole,
for sure.
yes.
Yeah,
And
right. That
somewhere there, yeah.
go ahead. No, you just yeah.
Exactly. And so cool because the head is full of information, and information is very much there to make you resist it, protect you.
Yeah.
And as a protector, it acts only based on what it knows, only based on what it heard and what it had learned, right? From institutional, the family, the schools, and everything else that
Right.
we ever read. So it almost like spins this reasons and multiplies the nose for you to listen to your body. But what I'm finding interesting, and maybe we can touch base to see why is this happening now in this age. What I'm finding interesting is that a lot of people kind of are feeling not to trust their mind. Like there's this like movement of energies, collective energies that they question, is it this the truth?
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day, it used to be, oh my God, I'm crazy if I don't, like it's considered mentally ill. And
Mm-hmm.
for the institution, if you don't trust your mind, I am what when I think,
Yeah.
right? So entire philosophy was based on it. Like I think so, I am. Right. So, but now a lot of people are actually questioning this and
Mm-hmm.
coming, but is this actually resonating in my body as my truth? This is why I sent you an email and say only and only if this is a yes will I honor it, because otherwise our hearts are not in integrity and aligned with the truth. And so much information here. Do you see why is this collective, why is our collective moving into trusting the resonance in the body, in the compass, in the self, in the truth, in the authenticity, in the sovereignty inside of us? Where is this coming from?
Well, for one, I think we have so much access to each other now. Like, and so much not only access, but anonymous access, where like you can pretty much say anything you want online and nobody's gonna beat down your door and like put you in the like white room, right? Like
Mm,
where you're like, in the straight jacket anymore. Like those days are over where we can actually be like radically honest. And what happens when people can be radically honest in a space that's not necessarily going to condemn them? At least not like cause bodily harm to them. And I'm really speaking about like the internet opening this up. Well, then you realize, well, I resonate with that. Wait a minute, I actually feel this way. I had that experience. I can understand this perspective, right? And so we are more connected now than we've ever been. And we're not at the mercy. I mean, we are in some capacity, right? We're like these the larger structures that govern our society, and we are at their mercy in some respects. But when you consider like the wild west that is the internet, and still to this day, I believe it is, right? Because you can talk to anybody from anywhere and recognize I have unity with you. I can see you as another individual and we share certain qualities. And so it makes us question, well, all these constructs that say they have their best interests, our best interests in mind, that say that we're supposed to just trust them for the facts. Like, wait a minute, where are these from? So I think that having the ability to talk to so many different people with so many different perspectives in a way that was unconstrained allowed us to actually ask the question of, well, what if? Well, why?
mm.
Well, it allowed us to like have that space to experiment. And now, us as a society, I think we're pissed.
Totally.
It's like, wait a minute,
On
I've been
what?
shutting this down. What happens if I just trust that instead? And then we have all these incredible stories of people that actually did, and they're not
Mm,
getting condemned for it. And in fact, their lives are getting much better for it. So
mm,
it's kind of going back to that gratitude I have for being alive right now, because like these conversations there's a place, there's a platform for them to occur, and it's
mhm.
allowing for this awakening to happen, not just person by person, but at like lightning speeds here. And it's
Oh my
exciting,
God.
it's terrifying and exciting.
Yeah. And oh my God, this just dawned to me as I was listening to you. It's like, oh my God. And this is why there's such a seduction, an allurement for many like you and me to go back into the past, to pull out the quality, not only through art, but also the human qualities. And we
Hmm.
go and we madly go into the museum and all the books and ancient and libraries, and we read and we discuss it only to actually create something that has the beauty from the past. Because
Hmm.
you are absolutely right. I agree. This is the time when we are almost feels like on the precipice, when we're about to either lose our shit, lose our minds, lose everything that we so far built on, or actually build a new renaissance. And
Hmm.
to come back, because you went to school of the classical music. I want to just ask you this because I'm dying to ask you this.
Please, yeah.
When classical music occurred, it was usually, well, actually, the Renaissance and the classics as well. It's like the creation that came and is considered to this day the top, the peak of the mountain of our art and potential in art and creativity came after the despair of wars,
Mm.
came after everything was lost, came after the fear, the panic, the famine, the plague, and everything else was just like eating, eating, eating. And you didn't know which way the life is going to go. So it's almost like something has to burst to humanity to give humanity a new hope, a new perspective of looking at it. Do you feel this? Is this true for you? And what would you say about that moment of almost like transition from total destruction and super fear and darkness that humanity entered into a brand new revolution and epoch in Renaissance, just from art's perspective?
I think as an artist's perspective, I want to just like iterate the Hermetic principle, which is as above, so below, right? As
Mm,
within, so without. So on a collective, we have this incredible music, like you mentioned, the Renaissance, the Baroque era, the classical composers who are writing this music that now we are still playing in symphony halls hundreds of years later. And it's considered to be the greatest music ever written, right? And it came as an aftermath of these horrid, awful, like things that happen in human history, the wars, the battle, the famine, the disease, everything. And that can be said for so many artists where we live through harrowing experiences where our lives are at stake. We think it's going to end. We see loved ones around us perish and die and suffer. And what does it do? Is it creates art.
mm,
And so now, at this point in time, we have so much, so many people creating art. Where back then, a lot of these artists that were, that are still to this day being played and preserved is because they were the few that were commissioned or paid for by oftentimes the government or sometimes like, or oftentimes the church as well. Like in the case of Bach is a great example. Johannes
mhm,
Sebastian Bach is considered the father of all music. Well, there were a lot of composers before him, but he wrote music in a church for most of his life. And it happened in the midst of so much political turmoil, and his music was refuge. His
mm,
music was sanctuary
yeah.
from all of that. And now, hundreds of years later, we're still playing his work because it's some of the few pieces that we have of that. And yet, somehow we hear it and we get
Mm,
connected in history.
yeah.
We get connected with humanity again. And nowadays, I would argue that like we're experiencing the same levels. If anything, we're being shown that level of like horror all the time. We're almost becoming desensitized to it. And when we go through these harrowing experiences in our own lives, it can inspire that art. But now with the capacity and so much saturation in the market, we don't have these few great people that we're going to hold on to throughout all time. I mean, I would really question anybody who's like, in this day and age, who do you think is going to last for the next 100 years? It's hard to
Mm,
put a finger on it because there's so many. And honestly, like a lot of people get frustrated by that, but I've really learned to just like be grateful for it. Like why
mm.
wouldn't you want to like see a world that says I'm going to turn my suffering into art? Wow, my lights just went. Like
Oh my
sorry.
God, what happened?
I'm being visited.
Who is in? Is it
Indeed.
Bach? I
We'll
wish.
fix the lights in them as we go on, but it just yeah, I really have an enormous amount of gratitude for the fact that like anybody can turn their suffering into art. And what a beautiful transformation. What a beautiful metamorphosis that can look like in somebody's life. And just because it's not necessarily going to be played in a symphony hall in a
Yeah.
hundred years, like it's still just as valid and meaningful.
100%. And you pointed out such a really cool thing to say. Yes, it used to be one or two or three of them or 100 of them as a part of building the Renaissance and painting pictures. But many of them had not only representation of the environment that they were in, that was very, very like almost horrid and horrifying, but they also had the inner turmoils. The
Yeah.
underworld that they actually entered into, were part of, and also discovered through them. Goya is a simple example. You know Goya's work. And you know
Yeah.
that he died with the massive amounts of really black, dark, dark art on his walls, secluded away from the government, secluded everything. So when you see his true art is actually the part of the underworld, or the almost like the horror that he lived in inside of his psyche. So the representation was not his masterpieces, was actually the representation of his expressions of what is going on internally. And
Mm.
also, just to add to that, Mozart died poor, right?
Right.
And he died poor because of that, like almost like the play in the system. It's
Hmm.
almost like, but it didn't stop him from being Mozart and creating something and staying true to it until he died. And then he got famous. And many of these artists actually got famous much, much later after
Right.
their death. So when you say there was used to be a handful of them and they were very famous to this day, now there's not one person you can point out. Do you feel it's actually just collective? It's almost like there's part of me that really believes in it, that
Mhm.
really believes in this silent revolution, Cawnawyn. It's like I love knowing there's this so much hope that we all know that any type of art, any type of form of expression, through words, through touch, through connection, through thinking, is coming from the heart. Meaning, I think, I really feel that we're evolving slowly because there's so much disinformation out there that we don't trust it. We start not trusting this mind at all, that we don't have any other way than to come down into the heart. And this heart will tell you your truth, but you have to be ready to face it. And this is where you face your own demons. Tell
Yes.
me.
Oh,
Tell
yeah.
me.
Oh no, please, you are on a roll. I don't want to interrupt you. I'm just like, yes, this is it. This is where it's getting good.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think we're faced to actually do exactly this? Come back to us, face our demons, to find our truth and express it together. This is the time. Something is happening on a collective level. So, what do you think?
I think that right now we are being given to more access than ever for the tools that we need to do that, for the
Mm,
resources, for the people that are open and willing to guide souls through that process. Like, the stage is set to have that level of transformation. But I also want to introduce, like, with that, you mentioned earlier about like the coldness of technology and like not being able to connect because everything is so pristine and perfect that it's not real. And I think that like, I actually really see this as a potential for a divide. I think this is what people talk about when they're like the dimensions are splitting, right? Whatever you believe in, I think that each of us hold a choice, and that some of us call it being awakened, or like coming online, or whatever it looks like. The awareness is really important, and
mm,
unless you build that organically and like authentically within yourself, it'd be very easy nowadays to have everything sent to you, everything written for you, everything done for you, and you can just sort of exist in this state of comfort through your life and not have any of those challenges. Because, like you said, you have to go into your heart and be ready to face that. It's
mm,
not comfortable. This is the
mm,
classic North and South node in astrology and evolutionary
mm.
astrology, right? Like, we can sit in our South node and be very comfortable, but what are we doing? We're not growing. We're in a state of like stasis. We are, if anything, we're kind of like the dead walking, right? Like, there's no growth there because we're too comfortable. So it's going to
Mhm.
take some grit, like friction makes fire. Like, you have to
Yeah.
get like dirt, your hands dirty, right? So when we live in that state of comfort where everything is provided for us, which nowadays technology makes it so easy for that to become this like endless scroll all day long of just consuming, 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 we have to have the awareness to break away from that. And when we do, the resources are endless. It's
Mm.
incredible. Like, the types of people you can meet by just opening your eyes, getting out of your phone and like talking to an individual. Like, what
Yeah.
a concept to have a real conversation, right? To craft a real message with handwritten word, and to write a piece of music, and to create an art piece. Like, it takes us getting involved, but that means we're not comfortable.
Mm,
We're gonna have a beginner's mind and suck at it at first and not be very like fluent, and we're gonna be a little awkward, and that's okay. Like, we have to kind of dare to suck at what we're
mhm,
doing. We have to dare to fail a little bit before we're gonna actually succeed at reaching that state. But I absolutely know it's possible, and I think there are so many thousands upon millions of souls out there who are on that journey at different points of it. And those of us that are on it, like, we got to hold each other, got to hold space for each
Mm.
other. There's so much that goes into it. I mean, that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned as an astrologer, just how many people are dealing with like true suffering in their lives and really just trying to do the best they can from all walks of life. Like every
Yeah.
soul is valid. Every soul has a valid journey and a valid heartache. And like that is what I feel like I want to just empower and like, you have a guiding hand. There's a light in this darkness and you can do it. Oh my gosh, I feel like I could go on for that forever, but like that to me is like why I do the astrology and yeah, ultimately.
Yeah. And that's, like you almost you touch the point where you're like giving hope for people that lost hope. And to me, the scariest thing that I always used to say growing up is like, oh my God, if I lose my mind, I'm so afraid to lose my mind. And I'm like, nowadays I want to lose my mind, actually. It's like
The
I want to
irony,
lose,
so good.
I want to get out of my mind. And it used to
Hmm.
be, I'm out of your mind, right? So I really want to get out of my mind and I want to drop into the body and I want to find that truth. And we touch based on trying and coming back down into yourself, really, you're going to run into so many resistances. First, this thing is going to give you a menu list for no's and why you should just stay comfortable, of course. But a lot of people are getting discomfortable, right? So a lot of people are learning what the discomfort feels like in their body and what is the unknown. And I always used to say in my meditation for coaching, I'm like, you have a room and hallway of 7 different doors. And there's exactly a door you know what not to enter. You just know and trust it. Just give it a try. You know exactly what door not to enter. And they're all enter. You open the doors, the black are there. You know exactly which one to do and which one not to. Give it a try. Just trust it and see. And trust it. And don't worry about the consequences because you'll deal with it. Everybody's dealing with the consequences. At least try and give it a try. So I think our contribution is just giving an example and trusting it blindly.
Hmm.
Okay. And trusting in the magic, trusting in ourselves, trusting in each other. And when you say the connection and intimacy of the conversations are now not happening because you're PhD in psychology, because you have your practice and I really need you to produce my music. It's actually because it's genuine connection. And
Hmm.
it comes back down to them happening when you allow them to happen, when you're ready for to receive them, when you're also giving your truth and you're receiving your truth, when you find your uniqueness, your gift, that knowing inside of you, and you meet another one at the exact same level. We are bound to be different, but we're also bound to not survive unless we're there for one another.
I was
We need
listening
each
to
other.
something and it said, the illusion of separateness is like the thing that keeps us from actually attaining what it is we desire. And the more I think about that and like the unity that I feel with others, right? Where if I feel isolated and alone and cut off and choked, like I can't be in a place
Mhm.
of creation necessarily. Like it's through the like unity and suffering, frankly, the companionship, the acknowledgement that like my pain is not alone. That's what gives me that hope that
Mm.
allows me to, co-create with the universe. Because that's what's really happening, right? We're not all these separate beings just like operating like robots. No, we are co-creating with source all the time. And in doing so, that's what creates that connection with every living person, not just in our timeline, not just in our community, but across history, like you and I experience all the time. Like we can touch
Yeah,
into that, we can tap into that energy, and we're not separate from each other. We are so interconnected.
totally. And we're also ready for it. We
Yeah.
actually have capacity to handle much, much larger amounts of energies coming in, passing through. We are capable of realizing awareness of our own layers. They were not just one dimensional, we're
Yeah.
multi-complex. And I'm not complicated, I'm complex. And I'm getting more complex. There's no way backwards. I'm actually becoming more and more complex in my being, in my wanting, in my desiring, in my knowing, in my truth, in my belief. And I'm bound not to be liked by everybody because I'm not supposed to. I can only be liked by exactly who I'm meant to on an energetic and frequency level. So I meet you at your readiness, at your stage. And out there, there's no envy, there's no jealousy, there's no competition. You're absolutely in awe with each other's uniqueness and you allow it to happen. If anything, there's only a
Mhm.
supporting force that comes in and says, oh my God, I love your beauty. I love you inside and out for what you're bringing in because I see you. How am I capable of seeing you? How can I see you? I'm seeing you because I'm able to see me. And I
Mm.
trust you because I trust myself. And I value you because I value myself. I belong and I participate together with the universe. Oh my God, you couldn't have said it better. Oh my God.
You couldn't have said it better. My God, that was like that was I wish we could just bottle that as like this is everybody's journey right now with Pluto and Aquarius. Like to me, that was exactly what Pluto and Aquarius is here to bring. And you
Mm,
are just paving the way for that whole evolutionary journey, the metamorphosis. We're not going back. We're
okay.
seeing ourselves in each other. Like that was good.
Mm. So,
Bravo.
okay. You won't believe we were talking already for 1 hour. And I wish to ask you two more questions or
Oh,
three.
I
Can
mean,
you,
please, yeah, by all means.
did you feel this hour?
This has felt just like a Pisces dream. I just feel like you and I just like got on our floats and we're just like, now we're just gonna solve all of the questions of the universe. And here we are. And
Okay, perfect.
it's
Because
like,
I'm still
oh, an
left.
hour has gone by? No way.
Exactly. Because I'm still left with so many questions for you. You're like a cosmic library I can tap into. So, like,
A
I
cosmic
have
library.
to.
Thank you. I will take that compliment.
I have to because, girl, you speak my language and I
Yes, I
am
know.
so there with you. Okay, so Pluto in Aquarius, what do you think from your astrological compass and your astrological point of view? What do you think this brings to humanity? Tell me in
Oh my
your
gosh, it's such a
artistic
big
ways.
question. I've been asked this before, but I feel like it's ever changing, which was it would be very Plutonic.
Mm,
Um, like it's not really what you think it is. So, on a mundane level, right, what this is going to do is it's going to expose a lot about humankind, right? Like that's what Pluto does. It comes in, and the first thing it says is, see all this that was buried? This has to come to light. So,
mm,
this looks really hard for the opposing sign of Leo. Now, I'm not just talking about Leos out there, I'm talking about royalty. Who do we consider royalty nowadays? There's like a real
mm,
royalty, but then there's this other form of royalty that we all kind of understand is like the wealthy or the whatever. And I'm not here to be like they're all evil. What I'm saying is that truths are going to be exposed. And what's going to happen is the collective Aquarius energy must transform. So what happens with Pluto is it exposes the truth, the wound, the hurt, the pain. It looks really shameful, really ugly. People get very upset about it, and then they enact change, sometimes to the point of a total obliteration of what was before, because Pluto
mm,
is death, right? It has to die. And the ashes from that collect together. The community decides. And I keep highlighting community because Aquarius is the sign of brotherhood, sisterhood, humankind, right? Where basically the pyramid of Capricorn has been flattened and everybody is on equal playing field.
mm.
So, what has to die in order for that to occur? And then, how does humanity want to evolve? And with Aquarius's modern rulership of Uranus, now there's so much that's being given to technology, to genius. Mercury, the mind, is exalted in the sign of Aquarius because it's at its highest capacity. It's operating with so much long-term ability into the future to see a path that no one else sees. So it can look like an obliteration of the past in effort to create a future. Now, do we want that future? Do we want a different future? Like, what future do you want to transform to? And what are you willing to let go of, to let die inside of you, to
Mm.
gain access to that place, to gain a journey to that place? Pluto and Aquarius is tough, like straight up. I feel like I'm
So,
getting a lot of the brunt of it because I'm an early Leo personally. That's where my sun actually
yeah.
is. So I feel like I'm feeling it, but it's what is it meant to do, right? Like when we dig in the ground, we find gold. That is what Pluto rules over, is the riches beneath the earth. So if we
Mm,
have the courage to face those inner fears, to do the work, to get uncomfortable, to expose what needs to be illuminated and to shine a light on it and not approach it with shame or with guilt, but approach it with love and compassion, right? Here we
mm,
all back to love because of course
mm,
Pisces has got to bring up love. If we can approach it with that love and acceptance and compassion for ourselves and recognize like it must be uncovered for us to empower ourselves,
mm,
there's no limit to where us as humanity can grow towards, but it's not without accepting that we are going to grieve what is lost, whether that be innocence because we didn't know, or ignorance, or the past, or what we loved about life, or what we hated about life, right? Like
mm.
there is a sacrifice that has to happen. So it's a
Mm,
really tough energy. And I will also say it's very slow. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm tapped into it just because I'm constantly reading people's charts all day long. So it just puts you in closer proximity to like how it's operating. But in the grand scheme of things, we're only at the first breath of this 20-year cycle we're about to go through. And we look back in
mhm,
history and we see how this has completely flattened civilizations. It's hard to say what it's going to do nowadays because we're not living the way that we were living then. A civilization
mhm,
doesn't look the same. So who's to say what it's going to look like? But either way, a death has to occur for us to evolve into the future. And the future is where Aquarius is dead set on going.
mm. Yeah, it has to
Not
evolve.
to get grim, sorry. But
Well, there's nothing grim about it if you're ready
okay,
for
just
it.
checking.
And like it's it's happening. And
Exactly.
with if you really look, and if you really, like you said, if you tune in with other people, and if you not tune into the news, don't tune into the news, that's a wrong source to go to because it's all doom and utopian out there. But if you really connect to see what people are suffering with, you will see the representation of the collective you're in, and you can tap into different cultures. You can go, we now have the open borders, right? So you can go anywhere in the world that you want. You can meet different people and see what the pain is coming from them. They are representation, what inner, so out. So you will see what is the real struggle. And to me, it seems what you said was like, it's a beautiful time to self reflect on your own values and what has for you, just for you, because we can't change what is happening in the world, but we contribute with our small inner self analysis. And this having, listening to this, like almost like qualities in you that are part of you that you can see in someone else. And you said, you really pointed out one really good thing because you resisted being eclectic witch and calling yourself in it. That's actually exactly where you start. If something has
Hmm.
such a strong resistance in your body, and but there must be something there. If it wasn't part of you, you probably wouldn't even care. You would just
Oh,
move on to the next because there's entire cosmos for you. But there's something that causes you to react to it. And this is the resistance that must be looked at because it's going to continue coming up for you. And there's something there. There is a blueprint, there is a seed, there is a signature, there is your quality in it. And if we're just able to tap back into that and just allow and learn, meaning learn about it, automatically you're opening yourself to some new experience. Everything has to be new. We have to innovate. Can no longer copy and paste because everything is copied and paste for us now. We have to come up with a different new, and we have to actually use our imagination and use our mind in our favor, not against us, because this thing is so big and so powerful and so untamed that does destroy us. Like it
yeah.
has so much potential to destroy us, but it also has equal potential to construct a brand new life within us and open us up to different realms. We evolve to capacity to Bluetooth our thoughts. If you really want to ask me, do I believe in it? Yes. If I'm thinking of you and you are, I'm almost certain that you're thinking at the same time. If
Hmm.
I'm, when I sent you the email and I asked you, hey, Cawnawyn, please just feel this in your body, you said, I'm heck yes to this, right? So you and I connected on a different level that it's unimaginable and unexplainable. So I think there are new capacities that are getting built once we tune into our own body and we're actually learning about them and we're layering ourselves to become more complex, that we can connect to each other deeper and with such a bigger quality that has never been done in humanity and civilization. I have high hopes, if you
I do
ask me.
too, honestly. As much as like it's tough to look at the hard stuff, Aquarius is the great scientist. And what do? Is they experiment, they trial and error. We all have the opportunity to be a great scientist with our life. You know what they call toddlers is little scientists. Like I live with two little scientists all day long and it's cause and effect all day long. What if I do this? What if I hit the wall? What if I jump off this? Like it's that level of it can be that level of play to discover
Mm,
what the
mm,
future could be and to find that imaginative source. So I'm with you where I'm like as much as the magnitude for horror is there, there's an equal, if not more, magnitude for great transformation and great evolution of humankind in a way that is powerful and amazing and can lead us to, I mean, that's what Aquarius wants, a brighter future. When we consider in the Northern Hemisphere, Aquarius is the time of midwinter where we are dreaming about spring to come. Like, let that be the
Hmm.
guide where
Oh,
you're like thinking of the flowers of the future, of the sunshine that will come again. We're in the middle of a winter of Pluto right now. So, what future
so
are you
beautiful.
dreaming of longing of, aching of? That's
Hmm.
possible. It's coming. We're responsible for creating it.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And when let's say we decide to tap into it because I think it just happens out of blue. It's a gift to you when it nudges you through the resistances like that. And you're about to start looking what's inside of me and what are the demons?
Yeah,
What do I
truly.
need to fight with and what are the dragons? How did you how did you face that?
I feel like it comes in so many different forms. As, through witchcraft, a lot of people talk about their shadow work, and it's such a broad umbrella term to discuss like doing that work, right? What is the resistance? What are the obstacles I'm setting in forth? Like, where are my fears coming from, my shames? And I have found recently, just like in the last, oh gosh, 6 months, I've really come into contact with a lot of those things. But what did it come as a result of was me like basically proclaiming, setting the intention of, I'm gonna figure this out.
Mm,
I'm not here to pick, like the comfortable route. Like I actually want to evolve and grow and to step into this identity that I believe is possible. So where are the gaps? What's it gonna take to get there? And then opening your eyes, opening your ears, being ready to receive the messages. And when you face up against like a resistance, and I'm so glad you brought that up because it's so true about the whole witch thing. I didn't even consider that, but it's so true. But when you're brought up against these moments of revelation, of reckoning within yourself, like all of those
oh.
are an opportunity when you come face to face with really, really hard subject matter, which I just went through like 2 weeks ago. I had a whole spiral moment and then I walked out of it and I went, you know what? This came at a time that I was ready to face that. And it's really
Mm,
hard to get back in touch with it. But I have a choice now. And I can say, I'm not gonna get sucked back into this shadow part of me. I'm gonna look at
mm,
it and say, no, I'm gonna grow past this. That I am
mm,
safe in my body, that I am loved, that I am strong, that I am smart enough to figure this out, and I am ultimately free of that. And that's something I
mm,
tell my kids every day. Like it came out of me and I was like, I'll just share it. But like every day I tell my children before they go to bed, you are safe, you are loved, you are
mm,
smart, you are strong, and you are free.
mm,
It's so important to remember that in those dark moments where we feel just drowning underneath the pressure of what our shadow looks like, what all of
mm,
that fear looks like, what our Pluto looks like. That
mm,
is the reminder we need to pull ourselves out of it. You are stronger than you know. God,
mm.
motherhood really has taught me that actually. So
I mean,
yeah, I could say that like all day long, but
I mean, motherhood is a superpower that you're dealing with, and on top of everything else that you're already. It's a different topic we can tap into.
I know, and that's another one I feel like
Yeah,
I could really go down. And so, but yeah,
but what I wanted to also touch, and this can be the last thing because you and I can go at it. It's like,
I know, I love
wow,
it. Like
wow,
I'm gonna have to have you on my end. You're gonna have to have me back. Like,
totally.
please,
I
that
would
would
love
be
to invite you
wonderful.
back. I would love to invite you back. I think there's so much to share with such a love, and I think there's so much love coming in, and it's actually excitement for to face it together, an invitation to join this like, collective confirmation that we're gonna be fine. And somebody has to say this, damn it, because everybody's freaking out, right? So
Truly.
I would rather be on a supportive side, and this is part of the Pisces. I also heard the Pisces are called to lead in these times a lot because we lead from the heart, because we almost like live in a different world, all worlds,
Yeah.
possible worlds, and all signs all together, and that we understand everybody. So it's really interesting. That perspective was like, wow. And not that we want to be on the stage and be famous, but it's going to happen. And it's like, okay, well, we just surrender. I just participate this way and I just trust it. But I wanted to touch base on the underworld. And I think this is really important because there's this like notion and context of what the underworld and darkness in us means. And it's so scary that we don't want it. We repress it, suppress it, we ignore it, and we just kind of shut it off offline, right? But I want you to give the artistic perspective of how much underworld can change you for better Why is it important to see if you have the tendencies to go down? And I'm speaking underworld, where it gets hard and
Mhm.
it also gets scary. And if you can connect your artistic underworld of your devotion to the newly discovered deities and Hades, Hades, I think it is,
Yeah.
if you want to touch base on that,
Sure. You bet.
the artfulness of it, and also trust in it because it was part of you, it came with you, and you discovered it inside of you, and you were just curious to find out what it is. So you almost pendulated yourself. You tapped into it, and then you tapped out, and you tapped into it, and then you tapped out until you felt safe to tap and stay longer there to discover what is it for you. So can you speak on the getting inside, trusting your feelings, trusting your voice, trusting your calling, being curious about it, and see how far and how deep you can actually go down? I could not to ask this
I'm
question.
really glad you did, but then I'm also like, oh my God, we're gonna be here another hour because the answer can go so long and so far.
Ah,
So, okay. I want to go back in time a little bit with this because, like, we mentioned me having resistance to being a witch, which is like really funny because when I said I was the last person to figure out, you have to understand, growing up, I was into dark. I was into suffering. I was into, and like I want to deconstruct that a little bit because I think what I recognized early on is like there's an ache, there's a pain, there's a longing, which is suffering, right? Actually, one of the root words of the word passion is to suffer, to endure. And
mm,
suffering is about the only experience that we as humans have as a guarantee. We are going to suffer in some capacity. So it is a universal experience. And so many great artists throughout all of time have expressed themselves, expressed in their mediums, this emotion of suffering. And to
mm,
try and mask it or suppress it or hide it, to me is I mean pointless, but also just like why? When there's such beauty in darkness, there's such beauty and rich like I mean, I find that it's very Plutonic. Like I find the beauty within the darkness, within the dirt. Like you dig for gold, right? That
mm,
that to me has been a constant. So I grew up loving figures like the Phantom from Phantom of the Opera, from Sweeney Todd. Like I loved the villains. Like, and this is a pretty universal experience among a lot of witches I know. Like many of us love the bad guy, but why? Because the bad guy's stories were always so much more interesting. The
mm,
psychology of what twisted their mind into becoming this other thing, which is also powerful, but we know it's wrong, but why is it wrong? Like it
mm,
asks all these questions. So I find the complexity of that so much richer, so much more beautiful, and I always have. So this has been a consistent expression for me throughout all of my life. And I truly, like, you go back in time and see some of my old photos, and you see some really interesting phases I went through as like an emo in
that's
school,
so
right?
good.
Like, this is where my heart lives very comfortably. So to me, becoming a witch was like, why wasn't that something I did sooner? I didn't become a witch until I was 27, you know?
Wow.
I was I was back at like 13, 12 years old rocking my dark eyeliner singing the Phantoms lyrics. Like I didn't want to be Christine, I want to be the Phantom. So
Wow.
like that level of and it goes even before that as well. It just and I think gratefully my parents exposed me to a lot of art growing up that had the complexity of human psychology. So it's always been something I've been very drawn to. Now, you mentioned Hades, and Hades was one that was frankly, the experience was offered to me, and I readily, happily took it because our last ritual that we did for Samhain last year, we wanted to do a performance of Persephone and the Pomegranate Seeds, which is a show that my friend wrote who played Persephone, and she asked if I would be willing to be Hades. And as you can tell, cross-dressing for me is nothing new. So I'm all about it. So I was like, yes, I absolutely want to embody this character because I really didn't know him very well, but I wanted to do my due diligence. So I did my research. I tried working with him and channeling. I did some catabasis and going into the underworld. And oh my God, I was not ready for the magnitude, the rich layers of that experience. My life took some hard turns around that time where I was very much up against grief in a lot of different aspects. And not that I believe he brought me there. I really actually believe that the timing was universally like divine in the sense that I was being introduced to him right when I needed him most. And
Mm,
so this
wow.
proximity to death and trying to reckon with it and not having this like overwhelming fear of it because it was this thing that I just tried to put out of my mind. But no, I'm actually up close with it. And what does it mean to die, to go to an underworld, right? It put me in very close proximity with what is suffering? What is the point of all of life? And it made me ask those questions of myself. I got to a very difficult place. And again,
Mm,
this is not to say that that work is what inspired that. I think I was already going down that path. And if anything, this just accelerated the evolutionary process occurring inside of me. Because ultimately, what it actually made me realize is just how much I want to be alive and how being
mm,
alive is really like brought so strongly into focus when I can remember to actually love myself too. And
oh
that's
my
something I
God.
think a lot of people really struggle with is to find that level of compassion and care, not just
Mm,
for the others in their life who they hold so dear, but for themselves. And I'm
mm,
still working on that. I still have a long way to go. But coming into close contact with chthonic deities, and Hades is not the only deity I work with. I also work with the Morrigan from Irish mythology, and she she's been with me for over a decade at this point, in like one capacity or another, and that's only gotten stronger over time. So to me, it really is. It's actually I'll take this back to back in like if we look at Stoic culture, right, and the Greek emperors that would rule whenever they were having this crowning glory moment, right, where like all the crowds are cheering and everybody in civilization is just applauding them and thinking that there's some kind of like god. They'd have their closest confidant come up to them and whisper memento mori, like
mm,
remember that you also will die, your mortality is a given. And so it humbles you, it makes you recognize the like sacredness of life, of every
mm,
moment, and to gain like as much, not really gain, but really just appreciate the richness of the beauty of human experience. Like,
mm,
that fruit can taste so good and that the light
mm.
can feel so beautiful and warm. And just like, I mean, I get really into textures too. So, like, just those like senses that can just like come alive and how much of a gift that is. It's really a strange thing to be so close to death and to recognize the sacredness of life itself. But to me, I feel like I'm always kind of dancing across that edge and finding the rich beauty in the suffering, in the pain, and allowing for the space for that to be what it is without judgment, and also to shed light on the beauty of life itself and to experience with full passion and like as much and as possible as I can possibly be. Like,
Oh
to,
my
to
God.
have that infinite of experience. So, yeah.
Ugh.
Anyway, I feel like I could talk about that for an hour and I try to like sum it up, but like,
I was just like drinking it all in because it was, and it was so
thank you.
touching because you're absolutely right on when we do face, and this is like human psychology for some freaking strange reason, when it's right, the death is right in front of us, right before we die, we say, I love you and I'm sorry. And sometimes, most of the time, we never say, I'm sorry or I love you. And you die without asking for forgiveness, without, for whatever reason. But it's such a waste of life often to die without fulfilling and having lived the full life. And it's very different from everybody. It's very unique for everyone too. It's like what fulfillment in life means to you, it's totally different what it means for me. But it's the discovery and adventure of coming back inside of it and really facing it. So back in the days, and we'll just touch base on this. Like back in the days, our grandparents, just simply two generations backwards, they didn't have time to think of underworlds and go back inside and psychologize and mythologize and pathologize everything that is happening inside, right? So it's like no time, different times. But and then you become wise when you're 70, 80, and everybody's looking up to you for the advice. But nowadays, we're much younger and we're also wiser. And, because we have capacity to take on a larger acceptance of our many parts that we are discovering. No matter what, we're still discovering our parts. So when you tap into that part, and we're not talking darkness, depression, horror, hell. This is different. We're talking the depths of how deep in suffering you can go, the depths of when you feel pain, can you and do you have capacity and ability to sit with it? And how long? Can you really face and admit to yourself that you're really afraid of dying? And
Mhm.
is that really the death that you're afraid of, or you're afraid to leave nothing behind as your contribution to humanity? It goes so deep when you sit with it. What is your extension? What are you leaving behind? And deep down in our genetics is to survive as humanity, which is why we're suffering because everything on the top is falling apart and we're going down deeper. We now have capacity to go down deep and sit with it and really feel your true story and really feel, is your life your truth? The
Mm.
life you're living, is it your truth? And a lot of how I see it, a lot of supporting parts will come and play a big role, including the deities that you are very connected to, including, which I actually really like the mythology and, how they were eaten by their father and spit out and like how they kind of like how I think he abducted Persephone, right? He abducted?
Hades, yes, he abducted Persephone indeed.
Persephone. Yeah, and
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, I can think about this for a long, very long time. But these parts of you show up and you accept them as your part, and you will know deep down that that's your truth. And then your life becomes very different. Can you speak on that? And how did you find the truth in actually learning the rituals and learning devotional connection with the deities that are coming from the underworld?
No, I
Please.
think I'm still very much on the path of learning that. Like I'm by no means anybody's like, this is how to go to handbook. And why? Because like life does happen, right? And
Mm,
I haven't, I'm really big on taking ownership of priority. So I have not been able to prioritize my devotion in the way that I would like. And I will be free to admit that. For me, that it comes the most naturally through the art that I do, through the creation of music. That to me, I think is probably the most comfortable form of devotion because it comes as naturally. And I'm always looking for ways to really like integrate that into my life. I don't actually really believe that balance exists. I think balance is something we
Gemini.
all try to strive for and never reach. So I just decided, screw it, I'm going to integrate instead. I want to
Screw
sprinkle
it.
my life with wisdom and understand that some things will always just be like, I'm always, what's the term? In Egyptian mythology, Ma'at would weigh the heart against a feather. And like to find Ma'at, I feel like is actually what I'm trying to do, where it's this, again, integration of wisdom versus trying to just have it all figured out and like
Mm,
balance the scales all the time. Because it doesn't happen, because we're surprised with Uranian level shocks and
mm,
surprises, and humans are hard to pin down. So, I'm still discovering what devotion looks like to chthonic deities. But what I do know is every day when I have the awareness, I make the priority to connect with them in some small or very big way, my life is richer for it. Like
mm,
it never disappoints. When I
mm.
take that time to make the intentional practice, and I'm far better, far more regular than I used to be when I was kind of just dabbling around. And I still have a long way to go. I mean, I have two wonderful friends from New York, and they run a witch space podcast, and they're lovely. And they asked me once, they're like, "When are you going to stop calling yourself a baby witch?" Because I feel like a beginner's mind all the time. I'm like, I'm only like a few years into this, but I also lead ritual. I also have written albums. So like it's even within my own perspective, I feel so new to it. And I want so badly to learn and to practice this
Mm,
type of practice, this type of witchcraft, right? So I don't know. I'm going to strive to integrate. I'm going to strive to live by the example I would like to see in the world, which
mm,
also includes grace for myself that I am human. I'm going to have hard days. I'm going to forget. I'm going to
mm.
mess up. I'm going to have things that I have to do for the kids, and allowing myself compassion and space to make those priorities a real
Yeah.
thing, and also try to just connect every day on some level, big or small. That's
Yeah.
like the 100% honest answer. So there you go.
I mean, yeah, and you're also Gemini, so you will never be satisfied with how much you know.
The way you kill a Gemini is you make them pick one. And I'm like, no, I will not
Yeah,
pick
yeah,
one.
yeah. Exactly. It's like, isn't
I have to credit
versatility?
Mare for that. That's her. That's so good.
Yeah, it's so cool. So what's your minimum number of things that you do at the same time that you actually function based on?
Oh, you know what? The person to ask is not me. It's my husband. Honey, when you see me, I did ask him once. I was like, selfishly for you, like if you could think about when you see me happiest, like what am I focused on? And he said music and motherhood, honestly, are those two things. And to
Oh,
me, music is devotion to
mm.
self, to whatever my inspiration is, to deity, right? And then to being a mom. Like those t I mean, it wouldn't be a Gemini answer if it wasn't two things and not one. Just so
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
got it.
Totally. And they all sound loving. Actually, they sound like a product of love or service of love or love itself. So,
Indeed.
wow, Connor, I told you this is okay, an hour and 40 minutes. So,
All right, look at us. Fabulous. I love it.
I don't know what to tell you. This was such a good travel.
Yes, yes, it was. It's so good to connect with you, like in any capacity, but this was marvelous. Thank you so much for doing me the honor of having me on and engaging in rich, deep, like us, reach down into your like gut and pull out the truth conversation. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is the stuff
S-
that sustains. Like, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
So good. And I feel so filled, right? So I feel
Are
so
we feeling manic?
man, do you?
A little bit.
Seriously?
Yeah,
I
you bet. Oh my gosh.
I feel like so I'm sweating, so my
Same.
energy is activated in the body, but I honestly feel so truth to every single minute of this podcast. And I also feel satisfied, meaning you and I tapped into 55 different subjects and themes,
No
and we were
less.
able,
Yes.
and it was only supposed to be one, which is devotion to the underworld. And how did you get there? And I
We
told you
got there. We made
we got
it.
there eventually. But I love that you flew with me and that you died with me as well and that you hoped with me together. And I love that we actually were able to meet at that level of understanding and acceptance and just play. This was such a joy to actually play with you that I'm not shocked. I'm just really happy. So I just want to thank you for showing up truthfully, authentically, creatively.
Oh,
Girl. Thank you just
thank you.
for being you. And I wish our paths cross again and again and again
I
and
know
again.
they will. We will make it happen. So mote it be.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Cawnawyn. Love to you.
Love you.
Ciao.